Welcome to the Elevating La Cultura podcast, a space where I talk with Latinas who are passionate about what they do and are willing to share that passion with others to change the narrative, especially for the next generation. Each season is centered around different topics, but all with the Latina perspective. Welcome to season 11, where I'm talking all things finance. I'm so excited to share these powerful conversations. So vámonos, and let's get into it. Rosalie is a risk strategist, advisor, and founder of Portecua Consulting, a Latino-owned consulting firm that specializes in helping entrepreneurs identify and get ahead of risks so they can build beautiful businesses that are protected, optimized, and well-positioned for growth and impact. Whether it's through a consulting project, as a one-on-one advisor, via workshops, or with her upcoming book, Build a Beautiful Business con Confianza, she equips business owners with a risk lens so they can make great decisions for their businesses and become the powerhouses and changemakers they are meant to be. Please enjoy our conversation. Hey, I'm excited to have you back on the podcast. I've got Rosalie here. She was on episode 81 a few years ago when she first started her business, and now she's back talking about her new book. And so I'm excited to get into all of that. But why don't you tell us, what have you been up to the past 2 years?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Karina. I'm excited to be here and with my brand new book and just talking all about it. The last 2 years have definitely been a whirlwind. When I first came on your podcast, you were the very first podcast that I had been on. I had just started my consulting firm, Portecua Consulting, and I was immersed into this new entrepreneur experience and trying to help entrepreneurs leveraging the skill set that I had from corporate. And so now 2 years in, I've worked with a ton of entrepreneurs, Latina, BIPOC, queer entrepreneurs, and just helping them get set up successfully for their business. And as you know, and as some of you may know from my content, I talk all about risk. So everything I look at is with a risk lens. And so it's really about thinking, what are the top risks for your business and how do we tackle them? How can you manage them well so that you can move forward confidently with eyes wide open and kind of proactively preventing what could happen in your business? So yeah, I've been working with a ton of clients. I've done some workshops and some speaking engagements. And then along that journey, as I was trying to figure out how do I really build this brand to last, a book kept coming up. And so with the technical expertise that I have, and also just the cultural experience of being a Latina, being a woman, how can I put those two together and really help amplify the impact that I'm trying to have? And because a book kept coming up, I went for it. And I was like, let me write a book. Let me talk about how to build a business, how to manage your risks, and really leverage a lot of the stories that I've been seeing over the last 13, 14 years, either in corporate or with entrepreneurs, with small businesses, with startups, and put those all into a book. So the book is really a ton of stories and chisme, as I would like to call it too. So it starts out with a small short story of some chisme that happened. And then you're kind of like, okay, well, that happened to them. How does it not happen to me? And so after the story, we go in and debrief a lot of how you can prevent it. We talk through some risk concepts and themes, and then I give you kind of a call to action. Sometimes it's something small like a reflection. Sometimes it's more of an exercise, and sometimes it's a little bit bigger of a risk assessment type thing. So a lot of things have been happening, but I'm very excited to be here and talk more about the book and the business and how we move forward together in community.
Yeah, I mean, you went from launching your business and you just kind of you were everywhere. And I just get so excited to see everything that you have been doing and the people that you have been connecting with and helping. And so I am so excited to read this book. I'm part of the launch team to help everything get out there, and I'm excited to dive in. And as today is a special day because this is actually when the book is live, when this episode airs. And so I'm excited to have more people read and just be inspired by another Latina author. I feel like we need to be getting our stories out there, getting our lived experiences out there, and getting our expertise out there. I think that since I've met you, you have been doing just that. And that's why I'm excited to have you back and to just share how things have like skyrocketed for you over the past 2 years, because you launched your business and then I saw that you were writing a book, and I'm just like, yes, a lot of people get tripped up on like thinking about writing a book and thinking like, oh, well, I haven't been in business this long, or like, I don't have enough to share. And so I'd love for you to share your wisdom, inspiration on how the journey has been, and like what inspired you to take the leap of like, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna write this book.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I was in my first year of business, and because the book kept coming up, I was like, someday I'll do it, someday. And I think a lot of us think like these are these big mountains or big projects that we're doing, and we're like, we'll do them later once we feel ready. Um, but actually, funny story is that I got on a sales call and I was like, let me just find out. Like, I'm the type of person who will go and research and I'll take the calls, I'll just like learn, and once I'm ready to dive in, I will. But I got on this call and the person just, I didn't have good answers to say why I wasn't doing it now. They were like, well, you already have the expertise, you've already been through these situations, you can already help other people, like you have enough here to write a book. And they walked me through the journey and they're like, it's going to take about a year to write a book or longer. And so if like, why not start now? Like, if not now, when? And I had really had no good rebuttals for what they were telling me. And I was like, you're right. Like, if it is going to take me a year, like, let me start that process now. So very unlike me to just, jump on something like that. Like, I had kind of been thinking about it, but the call just really sold me on why it was necessary. And especially like you said, like using our voices is so important, and getting our stories out there and our expertise as well, because we do have a lot of expertise. And I would like a lot more of us to be writing books on either self-help or business, or how to build communities and all of that. And there are some coming up, but there's so much more I know that we have knowledge of that we can share more broadly. And part of the reason too with kind of taking the leap was just representation in general, like being a Latina, being a woman. Like, I wanted people to feel like this book was a safe space to be able to learn. And so, because when you're reading other books by other demographics, it's kind of like, okay, I'm learning, like, this is great. But this book is really going to be a safe space for you to learn and for you to realize there could be mistakes that happen. Like, you're managing risk differently than other people, and that's okay. And just really thinking through everything. So, I took the leap. I won't say that the journey was easy by any means. It's one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do. And there was some mindset work in the beginning of like, can I be an author? Like, will people care about what I have to say? Will people buy this book? And so you kind of work through that. And even throughout the journey, I'll admit that there are different points where you feel that kind of mindset work needs to happen again. So it was at the beginning, but then once I was nearing the end of the first draft, I was like, wow, like, I'm almost here. Like, do I want to finish this? Will people still want to see it? And then as you're going through your editing, and then as you're getting ready to launch, especially the last few months have been around the production phase and the cover and the formatting and just getting everything prepared for launch and to have a successful one. There's a lot of work there and a lot of journey, but I've had so much support along the way, I will say. So shout out to the book community that I took along this journey with me, and also to the launch team and those who have joined to be able to read an advanced reader copy and leave reviews and really just help amplify this book. So leading on community has helped me a ton, and then a lot of discipline as well. So one thing in the beginning, it's nice to think like, hey, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write when inspiration strikes. And I did that in the beginning, so it was a little bit slower. But then you realize like, okay, I need discipline as well. It's not just inspiration, it's inspiration and discipline to be writing every day and finish that draft out. So very excited. Took the leap because I knew it would help the brand, it would get the voice out there, it would increase representation. And actually, and one of the other things too is just around, I really want to serve the community broadly, not just, oh, people who are making 100,000 or people who are making 1 million. It's really like anybody who's starting a business to when they're starting to scale. So the book is going to grow with you. And then in addition, in terms of cost, I didn't just want to work with people who can afford thousands of dollars, like a big project. I wanted people to work with me who can only afford 100, or who couldn't afford anything. So that's why I put out free content. But then this is a $20 book. So it's an investment into yourself that will help you and will give you all of this insight that will help your business. So a lot of reasons, but very excited to have the book out there.
Yeah, I think that speaks volumes to like who you are and the desire to help the community. I think of all of the books that I read, well, 15 plus years ago when I was starting a business, and the like it was just very like, you should know this, like, and if you don't know this and if you don't do it this way, then like what are you even doing? It was very I don't know, like it just didn't resonate with me in a way that like meeting people in the community that have this like similar lived experiences, similar backgrounds, similar values. I think the values piece has been huge. Um, and that's where I had a disconnect with other books that I've read. Like the values, the cultural values just weren't in alignment. And so that is why I get so excited when I know someone who is a Latina who is like sharing their personal stories, sharing lived experiences, because that's so important when you are trying to build something and make it impactful. So yeah, I'm really excited about this being out in the world and my fellow Jefas being able to read it. Um, what you mentioned um, having to really have the discipline to like write and get content down, but have there been other challenges that you've overcome that you didn't necessarily expect during this year-long book writing process?
Um, I would say one of the biggest, aside from the discipline factor and just getting, just this being a really long marathon and having to continue to push through, was in the production phase more specifically. So the team that I was working with, I mean, you don't know who you're getting assigned when you work with a hybrid publishing company, and the people I was working with for the cover and the formatting, um, it just took a while to get to where I wanted the vision to be. And so trying to like, I mean, in production phase, when you're dealing with covered and formatting, it's really tedious in terms of like, what font do you want? Like, do you want this to be bigger or smaller? Oh no, move this slightly to the right or the left. And we were communicating via email. So that was a little bit more daunting, I guess, than I thought it would be. And you, at the end of the day, like you are your own quality control. Like everyone is you're gonna care about the book the most. So it was really a lot of like detail oriented, which I am very detail oriented, so I'm fine with that. But it was a lot more detail oriented than I think I expected, of just making sure like I want this to be perfect, and I want this to be aligned, and so it doesn't look off. Or why is this potentially like cut off a little bit, or is this a different font or spacing? So there was some challenges around there, and so just thinking about the overall process, it's like you're writing the book, but then you really have to be the one to do quality control on the formatting and the cover as well, and then marketing as well, which I won't get into. But you're the face of the book, and you're the foundations of what it's writing on to be successful. So as far as challenges, I would say that was one of the bigger headaches that I had. But we got through it. We made it through. And even throughout this process, I'd say that you have to release certain things to the universe, because not everything's going to go the way that you think it's going to go, especially timeline. You expect it to maybe be a year. I think my total was about 15 months, end to end. I did expect to have it a little bit sooner, but it's almost like the time came, and then I was like, okay, I'll do it 2 weeks later. Okay, 2 weeks. Okay, 2 weeks. And then you just kind of release it to the universe. And I'm so excited that it's coming out, or that it came out today, February 25th, 2025. This was the perfect date for it to launch. So the stars aligned, and I'm excited for what the next year brings.
I know that when we first recorded or first met in 2023, I was like, one day we'll meet in person. And I'm so excited that it's going to actually happen. So if you're listening to this episode, Rosalie is going to be in Chicago. And so you'll have a chance to be able to meet with her in person to discuss this book. And I'll get to meet you in person as well. And I'm excited about that. When you are working with people or chatting about risk, I feel like there's a lot of risk that we don't realize. And we probably touched on this in the first episode that we recorded together, episode 81, if anyone wants to go back and listen to that episode. But is there something that is like the top risk for like someone who's starting out as a business owner, or like even if you've been a business owner for a few years and you're just like, oh, I never done like a risk assessment. I kind of just launched and I'm figuring it out along the way. I'd love for you to talk about like something that we should all be thinking about when thinking about risk, especially when building a business.
Yes, great question. So like you alluded to, there is risk everywhere and we have some notion of it. We don't necessarily pay attention directly to it or in a structured way. So that's what I'm trying to bring with this book. And I would say that the easiest way that I've had in terms of working with clients and getting their mindset kind of wrapped around thinking about risk a little more proactively is around your finances and around your numbers. Because when you're starting a business, obviously you want it to have legs, you want it to be successful. And in order to do that, you do have to make money. You are going to spend money. So you want whatever's left to actually bring you a business that is successful. So finances, absolutely number one, like knowing you want to have that initial passion and impact, but you have to know where your numbers lie. Because if you're spending more money, then you're not really making the impact that you can have, because you're more going to end up in burnout or spending more money than you're bringing in. And even if you're breaking even, it doesn't necessarily make financial sense from a business perspective. So thinking about finances from the beginning and having that budget is super important. And I do start out the book by talking about a risk assessment of start a business risk assessment. So should you even start a business? And finances already factors in at that point, because you want to know that you have enough money to survive on, or when you will start making money, making profit from the business. Are you using your savings? Are you using credit cards? So I go through three different considerations that you should make in order to do your startup business risk assessment. So it starts with that, but then also, like you alluded to, it's evolving over time. So maybe at the beginning, even from a structure perspective or what systems you have in place, like you might use Excel sheets or Google Sheets in the beginning, but then you switch into a system like QuickBooks. And it kind of depends. Some companies will do that from the beginning. Some businesses will do it later on. So you really want to think about how your financial ecosystem plays a part in the impact that you're going to have in your business. So having that budget, having the right systems, and having the right people or support in place. So are you going to do it yourself? Can you learn it, or do you already know it, or can you learn it, or do you want to hire somebody to help you? And so that's where I've been fortunate enough to work with a ton of entrepreneurs, helping them build it out. If they're like, numbers is not my thing, like I would love your expertise. Help me like manage my financial risk by having these projections made for me. And so that's where I've been able to dive in a lot. And so finances will absolutely, I would say, I could go on and on about finances, but know your finances. And ultimately it's really about, building wealth. Like there's different ways to build wealth, and having a business is one of them.
Yeah, I think that is a reason I wanted to have a season specifically focused on finance, because there are so many uncertainties in the just day to day life this year, and there's no real end in sight to know when things are going to like quote unquote get better, with the economy, with just what's it called, I've been talking about this with my kids, like the cost of living. And it's like they're already stressed about the cost of living. And they're like, my daughter's going to be 14, my son's going to be 12. And I'm just like, how, like, I feel like, yes, I've always been like worried about the cost of living, but it's sad to me that they still also have to, or feel like they are experiencing that anxiety as well. And so I'm like, okay, what can I do to like set that foundation for our family to not have to stress enough? And I think a lot of first generation, second generation, um, Latinas and Latinos, like everybody is trying to set themselves up for that generational wealth. And there is a lot of unknown and anxiety and fear. Like when you're thinking about, oh, well, should I start a business? It's going to be like a lot of money, it's a lot of work. Should I start investing? I feel like I'm late into investing. Like, should I invest with my business money? Like, should I invest with personal money? And so there's just so many questions that are being brought up recently. And I think focusing on finances and just knowing, like you said, having that risk assessment and just knowing where you are, no matter if you've already started a business or want to start a business. Like, it's always good to do like an audit every year and just feel secure instead of feeling that overwhelm of like, oh, I'm going to put it off. And then you get 2 years, 3 years, and you're just like, I don't even know what happens over the past few years. I don't know my numbers. And then that's when that shame comes in. And there's just like, it's a lot. And so being able to keep up with the, like, just knowing that baseline and saying like, okay, I have someone or I have some direction on what I should be knowing. And now that I know this, I feel more confident in making the next decision for like my family and that goes with anything like personal finance, business finance, and then like that even grows into like partnerships, collaborations. Like you just feel more confident. And so I love that you're saying like, okay, like just baseline, you should know your finances. Like that's top priority. But then also with this book, like being able to give more tangible, like an outline of like, you got this. Like, I want you to feel confident. And like that just goes to the title of your book. And I like just picking it up and starting to read it is already giving us the confidence like, okay, by the end of this, I'm gonna at least be like a step ahead in knowing that like I'm okay, I can do this, and there's people that have got my back too.
Exactly. It's all about enabling you, enabling all of us as entrepreneurs, and just having that awareness. Like you said, we have to be aware. Awareness is the first step, but sometimes it is the hardest step because, like you said, we spend a year, 2 years, 3 years, and we're just spending money, making money. We know, there is money in the bank account. Sometimes there isn't, but we're not managing it to like see the overall structure. And so that's something that when I'm working on helping clients create their budget, they're like, oh, I feel so much more confident now. Like, I know I was scared of this, but now I feel so much better. And now I can make decisions with finances. So usually some decision will come out of us having the budget. Either now they're ready to start their business, or they're ready to move some money around, or like apply for that loan. And so just having a really comprehensive picture of your finances in like one file versus like, oh, this isn't my credit card statement and this isn't my bank statement. And yeah, I paid cash for that. Or, people, the way you bring in money too could be in different sources. So it just depends on like trying to simplify it really is the goal. So have that simplification and have the awareness. And so I touch on those themes in the book and how important they can be to set you up for success.
Yeah, I am just so excited for people to get their hands on the book. Another piece that comes with the book is the community that you are building through the book. Like, that's what gets me even more excited when I get to like share and talk to an author, because it's not just like the content in the book, but it's everyone along the way that is excited about the content in the book. And that's where community really comes together. So, yeah, I'd love to hear more about that community piece and how that journey has evolved throughout this writing process.
Yes, definitely so important, and very grateful for the community that's come along the journey. I knew from the beginning I wanted to share share the process throughout and be very transparent about the costs, about what types of editors there are. I wanted to have, I did like a backstage VIP community, and I would do Q&A sessions with them every month. And so that was the opportunity to really ask any questions, and no gatekeeping, just ask me about anything and everything about how it's going. What have I been surprised with? What did I enjoy so far? And so really just bringing everyone along. And I've gotten messages of like, yeah, this has helped me a lot. And the reason I did it was to share the process. And then it also helped because writing can be a lonely process at times, especially the first time, like the first 5, 6 months when I was writing the first draft. Like, you're on your own. You're not necessarily in community talking about the book. It's really you writing the book. And so having that outlet of having the community served dual purpose, helping the community, but also honestly helped me as well, and make the process a little bit less lonely. So I loved having the community along the journey. And I've definitely seen other Latina authors before me go through the process as well, and what they've done and how they've shared. And I know that it can be impactful. And so in seeing what they do and listening to podcasts, I kind of formed my own process of how I was going to share the journey. So far, I'm really happy with it. And I hope that now that the book is officially out, now there'll be even more discussions and more stories about, oh yeah, this maybe it happened to me before. Maybe now I know how to prevent this, or I've seen this happen to someone else. And we'll be sharing stories and be able to positively influence our decisions we're making now in our business.
Yeah, I'm excited to see like book clubs, like reading this book and discussing it. I know I'm part of a book club, and we specifically read from Latina authors. And so I know I'm going to be sharing this book, and hopefully we'll be able to like come together and discuss it. We meet once a month, and so it's always exciting. Well, like when I'm like 4 to 6 weeks is when we meet and try to read like 10 books a year. Um, so I'm excited to see even more book clubs like across the country. I think that also like forms community when we see other people like that we know like doing launch parties and being like, oh, you were there, and like I know her and I met her and I read the book. So I think that this year and the next like years beyond, like community is really going to be the one thing that pulls us all through. And just building that support for each other. Like you said, like writing a book is lonely. Building a business can be lonely if you do not have like the community, which like I'm so grateful for the community that we have here in Chicago. But when I was starting out, like I was by myself and figuring it out along the way. And so, yeah, I cannot express how excited like I am about um just knowing you and seeing this come to fruition, and seeing the behind the scenes that you have been posting throughout the past year, and finally getting to the place where it's like it's real, it's here, it's tangible. And yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been great. And I wouldn't have thought, I mean, last time we recorded, the book was not, it was not a thought. I mean, maybe it was like a deep thought that it was like someday, but it was not a reality yet that I had, taken the plunge to say, yes, I'm going to do this. So last time we recorded, I would have not thought that, but here we are. I mean, you never know where your life is going to take you. And I think part of the reason why I also took the plunge was because I have that community aspect. And even just building the business and getting to meet so many amazing jefas and being all these communities, it's been great and supportive. And it made me realize too that a book would transcend even further, because I can only serve so many people one-on-one or even in a group setting, but a book really just packages everything up and could be distributed very, very far and wide versus where my capacity is as an individual. So excited for it to be out there and in the world. And I hope everyone who's listening here, if they find that it could be beneficial to them and they're thinking of starting a business or have a business or ready to evolve to the next stage, will grab their copy.
And I think it's also an encouragement for people who have had that thought in the back of their minds of like, maybe one day I'll write a book. but there doesn't have to be like a correct time frame or timeline. It's just like you said, like you got that inspiration and you're just like, why not now? Like it doesn't have to be like, oh, I've been in business 10 years before I have any value to give. Like I think that sometimes we see the authors that are out there and say like, oh, well, they are speakers and they're like been in business for a long time and that's why they've written a book. But we also have to give ourselves credit that it's not just like what has been put on paper to give us credibility, but it's like we can take all of our lived experience, our education, our like even generational wisdom that has been passed down, and that is also valuable. And like if you're doing it and you are connecting with other people, like yeah, start that group coaching, start that like one-on-one coaching, start that book writing process. I think like that just goes to show like yes, you can do it. Like whenever someone comes to me and they're just like I'm thinking about doing this, and I'm just like yes, you can do it. It
Yeah,
just takes
try
that
it out.
one person to be
Exactly.
like yes.
There's no criteria of like you have to have this much experience and whatnot. Like you have experience now that you could share with the world. You can decide that maybe it's something else you want to share, but you have something to share regardless of where you are, how many years experience you have. And I mean, to be honest, if you have somebody who has 30 years experience or 20, it's like, well, maybe I'm not quite there yet. And you won't resonate as much maybe with that author, their experiences. Like maybe we do need a variety of those people have done it for 30 years, but maybe you need the 20 and the 10 years and the 5 years. Like you want to know what it's like along the journey, depending where you are. So we need writers at every stage of experience. And for those who want to write a book, start writing, bust out your Google Notes or just use your phone notes, start to write down ideas of what you would do. Like sometimes even in the beginning, it's just like write out your dedication or write out an intro, like just kind of start to dream a little bit and brainstorm what you could write about and like how it would look like. That's what helped me kind of in the beginning. Like you have to have kind of an image or a vision or a dream. So I hope that we do have a lot more writers out there, a lot more women writers. There are, especially with nonfiction, we definitely have a deficit that, we need more writers. So writing, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, is extremely helpful, and it'll help with representation in the publishing industry, which is very focused on a certain demographic right now.
With the lack of understanding on why it's important like to have diversity in every area of life, whether that is authors, creatives, like we need diversity. And I think it's going to be us encouraging each other to keep going for it. And yeah, I love that you shared that encouragement. Um, were there any I don't know, negative voices that you had to just be like, "Ooh, I need to focus and like not listen to those during the writing process that you really had to be intentional about surrounding yourself with like positivity? Or did you build that community already and didn't have to worry about negative voices as much? Like, what was that experience for you?
Mhm. Um, I spoke a little bit, and I don't think it's necessarily a negative voice, but a little bit before about mindset. So, like internal voices, like sometimes it was just like, oh, can I do this? Like, will people read this? Like, should I keep going? Like, is this worth it? Like, I did have a little bit of that I had to work through. I would say, as far as external voices, um, when you were speaking earlier about like how many years of experience do you have, like you don't have to have 10 years like helping people build businesses. Like I am early in my entrepreneur journey, like helping young businesses, and so I think I did speak to somebody who was an author, who was kind of like, well, she's like, you're writing a book, but like you just started your business, so like what experience do you have? Like those were the tones of what she was saying, not directly in those words. But to me, it was really like, well, I already have the expertise. I've spent, 13 years in corporate and at startups and seen some of that, what I want to convey in the book and the technical expertise and the risk concepts, all of that. And so I was like, I already have that. Now I just need to help businesses. And so to me, sometimes I have to let those things, you let those things kind of roll off your shoulder and you're like, well, then maybe you're not my target audience. Like you move on. Like there's so many people out there and I try not to let, certain voices kind of come too much through to affect like how I'm trying to build this book out and publish it, because not everyone is going to be your target audience, and that's okay. And like same thing when you're building a business, you have clients that you want and some people will say no, you'll face a lot of rejection, and you learn to kind of just let those roll off and just move to the next person who might say yes, you can help a lot better, because the same thing for me has happened in business. So yeah, I mean there was maybe like one or two, but I think for the most part, everyone has been supportive. And I think I've been very intentional about surrounding myself in really great communities and people who are gonna be like, no, you can do it. Like maybe consider this and this, but like you can do it. Like there's always going to be things you have to work through. But I don't think there have been too many, I guess, negative voices.
That's great. I think that is something that I really value right now as I've shifted and built my business differently from when it started, because like yeah, I think there was when I shifted my business, there were a lot of people that didn't understand why I was shifting it, because I had built something that was successful and I decided to not do it anymore at the peak of its success. And it was a really hard call to make and say like, okay, I need to protect like what my vision is and specifically seek out the people who are going to support that and like pour into me as much as I'm pouring into them, rather than people who just don't get it and are being negative. So I'm glad that there is more of this like mindset and supportive community that is around for us to like tap into and pour into each other, because I think that is one of the most important things. Like I say this over and over, community is so huge in um, that support in building a business, and finding the right people who are going to be your cheerleaders and just like advocates alongside of you is like just really special, and I find that in our community.
Yeah, and just like I mean, you want the cheerleaders, you want the positive advocates, you want the people who are going to tell you the truth, but they're not going to be negative about it. They're going to tell you, like, okay, maybe think about this, and you can consider it, and you can pressure test. Like, it's not to say you want somebody to just come in and say your idea is amazing, go and do it, because sometimes we do have ideas that maybe we shouldn't be doing, or maybe it's not the right idea at that time. So surround yourself by the people who like have your back, versus those people who are like, I don't know, like, do you have the right experience for this? Like they're not seeing you for you and your whole self and everything you bring to the table with your expertise and experience. They're just like picking at something specific, and they're like, I don't know if this is right. And it's like, if you really believe in it and you've already done that internal like work of assessing that, then go for it. So yeah, find community, pressure test a little bit, but yeah, you have to, it's a balance between figuring out like, are they speaking with the, good intentions, or is there no basis for what they're saying? And then definitely ignore those.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I definitely am trying to instill in my kids, to be able to discern that in their own lives. Um awesome. I'm so excited for you. I think like this is like get the book, gift the book to someone that is looking to build a business. Um, but where can people connect with you, work with you, find you, order the book? Tell us all the places where people can connect with you.
Yes, I'm pretty much in most places. So the standard LinkedIn, Instagram, please connect with me, DM me. I respond to them. And then the book is available everywhere where books are sold, in ebook and paperback. There hopefully will be an audiobook coming later this year, but I decided to start with ebook and paperback. So definitely go and get those. And it's out on February 25th. today. So build a beautiful business con confianza. And I hope you get your copy soon.
Yes. And you're going on tour in next month. So tell us the cities that you are going to be hitting up.
Yes, so I'm still planning out the full tour for the year because like we said, it's not a 1 or 2 month process. It's going to be all year that I want to promote this book and really get it out there to everyone who needs it. But for March and April, I will be doing a couple stops here in New York where I am based. So here in Brooklyn and in Queens, I'll be doing 2 in March. And then I'll be heading to Chicago with Elevating La Cultura and Karina, beautiful host here, who will be having me at her event space. And so we'll be there on Monday, March 24th. So go ahead and I'm sure we'll drop the link here. If there are tickets, please go ahead and grab one. I would love to meet you all in person and hear what you thought about the episode, about the book. And then I'll be headed to the Bay Area, which is home. So I'll be there on Wednesday, March 26th. And then the following month, I'll be in LA on April 26th. So if you are in LA, specifically Long Beach, that's going to be the first stop. I'll be there. So those are the initial dates. There will be more. If you follow me, you'll see what the other dates are as well.
Yay, I'm excited. I am honored to be part of the tour. I'm excited to collaborate with you. Yes, the ticket link will be in the show notes. Hopefully there's tickets so that you can come, and if it's already sold out, we will plan another time for you to come back in Chicago. But I'm excited for you, and I'm so thankful to have met you, for you to be a returning guest on the podcast, and for your book to be out in the world. And yeah, I'm excited for you and for the rest of the year and for everyone who is going to be touched by your words.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Karina.
Awesome. Well, we will meet in person this year. I'm so excited, and I am excited to collaborate further, and we will see each other soon. I'm excited because sometimes when I say that, we don't know when soon is, but we will see each other soon, and I'm just so thankful for you.
Yes, we have a date. Thank you.
All right, we will talk soon. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, check out Rosalie's book launch events. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate and review this podcast so we can get more ears listening to these stories and can continue elevating La Cultura. You can also comment on our YouTube video if you're watching online. I always like to hear from people and how they resonate with the stories that I share. So feel free to take a screenshot of this episode and share it on Instagram and tag at Elevating La Cultura. Okay, enjoy the rest of your day, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening, y nos vemos next week.